There are many good reasons to use mulch in your garden. One, it conserves water. It also cuts down on weeds. And finally, it can keep the root zone of your plants a lot cooler. But there are some considerations you should think of before you buy your mulch. And the main one is what type of plantings you have. Are they annual plantings that are going to be worked in at the end of the season? Or are they more permanent plantings that will be there year after year? And that will determine the type of mulch you use. If you're using a mulch for your vegetable garden or for an annual flower garden, you're going to want to get a mulch that will work for a season, but then can be turned into the soil and break down easily without robbing the soil of nitrogen. And there are a lot of good mulches for this purpose. Some of them you can actually find around your own yard, including dry leaves. Basically, dry leaves work very well. The thing you need to remember with them is to run them through either your mower or a shredder before using them as a compost, because they have a tendency to pack together when they're complete and they can shed water. But if you mulch them, they'll make a very nice mulch for your plants. Now, something else that works very well that's right around the house is shredded newspaper. Now, if you put shredded newspaper down about 5 layers thick, it will work as a very good mulch to conserve water and to keep weeds down. However, it is kind of unsightly, but to get around that, you can put a thin layer of another mulch over it. Now, something else that works very well is straw, and straw is wonderful for your vegetable garden. Now, it is not quite as compact, and so you'll need a thicker layer, about 4 inches deep on this. It works very well. One of the drawbacks of this is if you use wheat straw, you can get quite a little wheat crop coming up, but it's pretty easy to go through it with a hoe and get rid of. Now, if you're looking for a more decorative type of mulch, one that's very popular is the cottonseed hulls. Now, this we use a lot in our railroad garden around the edge where we put our annual flowers in. And as you'll notice, it packs down very nicely. And this is also a wonderful water conserve type of a mulch. Now, actually, if it's a very wet year and you have plants that like a more dry climate, this can actually keep the soil a little too wet. Also, you tend to get a nice crop of cotton right after you put this down and water it. All those cotton seeds in there will sprout, but they're very easy to pull out. And this just makes a nice mulch around your plants. Now, another mulch, if you're looking for something a little bit darker, would be the cocoa bean shells. Now, these are just the shells from cocoa beans. And this is a wonderful mulch. We've used this for the last couple of years here at the Studio Gardens, and it works very well. And it's a darker mulch. Now, it has a tendency to blow a little bit when you first put it down, so you need to wet it down right away. And again, it only needs to be about 1 inch thick. Now, the nice thing about the cocoa bean shells is that they have a little bit of nitrogen in them, so it will add some nitrogen back to the soil. The other really nice thing about it is about the first 2 weeks after you put this down, it smells like you've taken a pan of brownies out of the oven with that nice chocolate smell. Now, if you're looking to mulch more permanent plantings, there are several to choose from too. Now, what you need on these is something that won't break down quite so quickly because you're not going to be working it into the soil. And one that is actually found around your home, if you have a lot of pine trees, is just the pine needle mulch. Works very well, and this is a nice mulch to use underneath shrubs because it has a nice soft texture to it. Also, the pecan shells are a very good mulch, especially if you have plants that are acid loving, such as azaleas, because pecan shells tend to acidify the soil, and so this is a great soil acidifier, and also it won't break down very fast. Now, if you want a more decorative mulch, the cypress mulch is very nice, and again, it works well in your shrub borders and also as pathways. It's nice to walk on, and it won't break down too rapidly. Another mulch that lasts a long time are the bark chips. And these, especially if they're large, will not break down, but you don't want to use them as a pathway because they are kind of difficult to walk on. Now, a newer mulch that's out is actually recycled pallets, and it's been dyed, and this is called Amerimulch, and this works very well. And we actually use a recycled sort of mulch. We use wood chips from the local tree trimming companies. Now, you want to be sure not to use any wood chips from eastern red cedars or from black walnuts, because those have properties that won't let plants grow. Finally, a good mulch, if you have an herb garden where you need to have a drier soil but keep the roots cool, is a rock mulch like pea gravel with this size, or maybe even a little smaller, and that works really well. So basically, as you're thinking about mulching, match the mulch to the type of plant that you're planting.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.